Property Worldwide Limited is a company specialising in commercial property investments. In today's financial climate, many of our clients are taking advantage of these excellent investment opportunities by using SIPPs. Here to discuss exactly what SIPPs are all about is James Ruff, Independent Financial Advisor from Smith Osborne. Hello, James.
Hi.
So, James, SIPPs have been around for quite some time. Can you just tell me exactly how they work?
Well, basically, a SIPP, or self-invested personal pension, is just like an ordinary personal pension, but with greater options to invest.
So how do they actually differ from any existing pensions?
Well, an ordinary personal pension allows you to invest in funds, normally available through the pension provider, but it's very restrictive in terms of what you can invest in. A SIPP allows you to invest in any investment fund available in the UK or further afield, but it also allows you to invest in things such as unquoted shares, commercial property and other investment assets directly as well.
So what would you say are the benefits of a SIPP?
That very thing that you're able to invest in a number of different areas, not just the ordinary pension funds that would be available to people who invest in personal pensions within the UK. Really the main benefit would be freedom of investment choice.
So could you, in theory, take pension funds from an existing fund and transfer it across to a SIPP?
Yeah, you can. What a lot of people do in the UK is they open up a SIPP to consolidate existing pension funds, maybe from previous pension schemes through work. They're also referred to as frozen pensions or paid up. People will often have 2 or 3 pension funds sitting around and they'll use a SIPP to consolidate, therefore they can invest it easier and manage it easier.
So what about cost implications? Are there any hidden costs involved?
Not so much hidden costs. There are costs for setting up a SIPP. SIPP fees tend to be quite transparent, and I would say you're looking at around about £500 to set a SIPP up, and a similar amount there again to manage it on an annual basis, or certainly from the admin point of view. In terms of hidden costs, if you take that in comparison to an ordinary personal pension in the UK, funds normally tend to cost around 1 to 2% a year. The good thing about the SIPP market now is there are many providers, which has driven the costs down. Cheap isn't always best though, so we'd always recommend you shop around and actually seek independent financial advice before actually deciding on what SIPP to invest through.
And what about any potential downsides? Are there any risks involved?
There are risks, but these are normally associated to the investment held within the SIPP. Personal pensions carry risk as well. If you're invested in stocks and shares in the UK, through a SIPP or through a personal pension, they'll carry the same inherent risks. The SIPP allows you to invest in other investment assets, like directly investing in shares, commercial property. We would often recommend people take legal advice, for example, when investing directly in assets such as commercial property. You don't necessarily have that worry of personal pensions, but by and large the main risks are more on the investment than the actual SIPP itself.
And what about this issue that the provider can act as an administrator or a trustee of the investment fund? How does that operate?
Well, often when you set up a SIPP, the SIPP provider will act as the trustee. Through SIPPs, their main responsibility is to make sure that the investments held within that fund on behalf of the client comply with HMRC rules. Most SIPP providers do an element of due diligence on a product, but we need to consider the fact that if we're allowing people to invest in lots of different products directly, a lot of responsibility can fall on the investor, particularly in doing their own due diligence, and this is where taking independent legal advice would be very important.
So just in summary, James, do you think SIPPs are a good idea?
I think SIPPs can work for the right people. SIPPs benefit from the same tax treatment as personal pensions do, so no UK tax on any capital gains or income tax within the fund, and that will boost the growth. Also, SIPPs benefit from tax relief on any contributions made, just like personal pensions. I think SIPPs can work for the right people if you take into account the major problem we've got at the moment, that most people, they get their pension statement at the end of the year, they put it in the drawer and they forget about it. People aren't taking generally an active role in providing for their retirement. SIPPs allow people to take an active role and manage their own investments. I think if this encourages more and more people to look towards pensions, towards saving for their retirement, then yes, I think it is a good idea.
Thank you, James. So for more information about SIPP-approved property investments available through MAK Property Worldwide Limited, please visit the website at www.makproperty.com.